Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 109. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going over a Paldea team. Now it would have been really easy for me to make a Paldea team by just making a 2-2-2 team with Mousehold, Annihilate, Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Armarouge, 6 Pokemon that came out that works with Armarouge. But I decided not to do that just because I felt like that would have been a really easy answer, and also we've seen all of those concepts previously. So let's use this team to talk about the Pokemon that are, like, okay in the Paldea region by no means, that don't really stand out except for maybe Mouseape here and Farigiraf, of course, because Armor Tail. But we can look at some examples of maybe not necessarily power creep over the generations, but just Pokemon that fill roles that are not that necessary. So starting off, we have Crocalor here, and Crocalor is kind of nice because Skeledirge does turn into a Fire Ghost type, which has its advantages and disadvantages in terms of changing around our weaknesses. But Crocalor being a base fire type and having the Eviolite item since it's not a fully evolved Pokemon means that we can make ourselves a lot tankier, and Skeledirge already had a lot of great defensive moves, so we have some of those moves here on Crocalor in the Will-O-Wisp in order to lower the physical damage that the team is taking, and Snarl in order to lower the special attack of the opponent. It is worth noting that since Crocalor is unaware that Crocalor itself does not get to actually benefit from these stat drops from the Snarl, but the Snarl helps out everything else on the team pretty much. As well as we also have the Flamethrower on Crocalor just for a little bit more consistent fire type damage for just wherever we need it, and the Slack Off in order to recover health. Since we're already very tanky, we can put ourselves in a position where if we need to stall, we can stall for a bit with Crocalor by just spamming the Slack Off. Next up, we got Mousehold, family of 4 form, and this Mousehold is a mostly supportive Mousehold, as we do have the side beat up for our Mouseape mode, and we have the taunt in order to stop the opponent from going for status moves, and we have the follow me to redirect damage away from Mousehold's side partner Pokemon, as well as we have the ability Friend Guard in order to reduce the damage that our side Pokemon takes, and we have the Covert Cloak to make it so mostly so that we're not getting faked out, but also just avoiding all the secondary effects of moves, and we're Terra Grass so that we're avoiding powder moves. Also, since we're following me on Mousehold, we can redirect powder moves into ourselves with the Terra Grass and just kind of stop anything from our team from being affected by powder moves. Next up, we got the Annihilate for the Mouseape part of the team, and this Annihilate is a pretty defensive Annihilate set where we have a lot of it invested in HP. Actually, I should have more invested in special defense really, since we're Assault Vest. But we're Assault Vest so that we can afford to take more special attacks, and with Crocalor lowering the opponent's special attack, Annihilate will be able to take even more special attack, hopefully, so that we can charge up the damage for our Rage Fist to make it so that we can do a lot of damage into the opponent, as well as we have the Drain Punch in order to get our health back, and the Close Combat in case we need a lot of burst fighting type damage. We can afford to do that. And in the scenarios where we just want to sack Annihilate for an opposing Pokemon, we also just have that Final Gambit, which isn't the fastest Final Gambit in the world, but there's really nothing better to have on an Assault Vest Annihilate set except maybe like a Vacuum Wave for a little bit of priority. And of course on Annihilate we are Defiant, so that if we ever get a stat drop, we'll get an attack boost, which will help Annihilate out a lot. And we're Terra Water because water is a really good defensive type in general. Up next, we have Low Kicks, and Low Kicks was a really interesting bug dark type, mostly because it's the only bug dark type, but Low Kicks with the ability Tinted Lens means that all of our damage that we deal that's just 2 times resisted is actually not resisted by the opposing Pokemon. So we're going full Dark type moves because Dark type can hit every single type in the game. And even if they 1 times resist the Dark type move, like with Incineroar, we still have some pretty decent damage into Incineroar, especially since we have the Lash Out to hopefully negate the fact that we've been intimidated. 1 time we can get a 150 damage move with our Lash Out. As well as we just have 2 other Dark-type move staples in a knockoff to get rid of the opponent's items, and the Sucker Punch for a bit of handy priority, and we're Terra Dark to even further boost the power of our Dark-type damage, and we're Focus Sash so that we can always take at least 1 attack since we are fairly frail with the low kicks. Up next, we've got Wugtrio, and I'm gonna be honest, this is more of a charity case putting Wugtrio on this team because I thought it would be funny to have like side triple dive for another way to activate our Annihilate Mouse 8 mode, but with Wugtrio instead to boost the power of our Rage Fist. And I haven't actually tested out how much damage the Choice Band Triple Dive does to Annihilate, and I don't think I'll ever know because I basically don't bring Wugtrio into any battles. But Wugtrio, it's not like the worst thing in the world. You got like Gooey for lowering the opponent's speed, and speed control is definitely important on a Mouse Ape team because you want your Annihilate to be outspeeding everything. And Triple Dive might just be like worse surging strikes, but at least you can get Focus Sashes with Wugtrio on a lot of the important Pokemon like Sneasler and Pelip. Maybe this gets Pelipper. You do get Rain Boosted. Ooh, scratch that idea. But on Wugtrio, we still have Sucker Punch for doing some Dark-type damage. And we have Terra Ground, Stomping Tantrum, ground mostly so that we can avoid being hit by Electric-type attacks. And we have other Pokemon on this team for dealing with Grass types. But last on the team, we're going to include Farigiraf here since we really needed some of the stronger mons in order to kind of at least put a bow on this team. And Farigiraf, real strong Pokemon, mostly because of the Armored Tail, but we also have the ability to imprison Trick Room to stop the opponent from going for Trick Room. Because our team obviously does not benefit from being in Trick Room that much, except for like Crocalor, since Crocalor is fairly slow. We also get Stab, Terra Blast, and then whenever we go Terra Fighting, we get Terra Fighting, Terra Blast. And we have a Citrus Berry to numb on in order to get our health back up just by a quarter whenever we're below a half. So yeah, that's what we have to offer for Gen 9, even though I think Gen 9, in terms of competitive, is probably one of the best competitive generations that we've had so far. And I'm really glad we got Pokemon like Annihilate and Farigiraf that kind of spice things up in the meta and kind of boost previous strategies that didn't work. Like, before we had Rage, but now we have Rage Fist, and Rage Fist is actually cool, and I don't think that there's a single Pokemon player under the age of 18 that can tell you what Rage does. But not all the Pokemon introduced in this generation are absolutely crazy. Some of them might get better outside of terrestrial formats, like Low-Kicks I think will be better outside of terrestrialization. But as for Wugtrio, I have no idea what they were thinking when they were making this Pokemon, other than that, like, someone one day just misspelled Dugtrio, and, like, fireworks went off in their brain. But, let's get into some battles. Alright, so first up we have a battle against a Trick Room Lilycole team that we've seen quite a few times now. And we don't want them setting up Trick Room, but we don't necessarily fear the Trick Room getting up first, so we just lead Crocalor and Annihilate in case they led the Lilycole mode instead. And we immediately Terra Water our Annihilate, and we Drain Punch the Indeedee in order to get some chip on it. And we do miss the Snarl on Indeedee, which kind of stinks because Indeedee can have damage here. But now we swap in Farigiraf since they went for the Trick Room there, and Farigiraf can soak up all of the damage, while Annihilate is also soaking up some decent damage there. We're taking less damage from the Indeedee if we landed the Snarl, but we get some Drain Punch to at least heal some health back, and they just decide to Helping Hand Expanding Force, and Crocalor is unaware to the stat drop on the Hatterene, but Farigiraf gets us out of Trick Room, and then it imprisons the opponent from going for Trick Room again. Crocalor gets off another Snarl, and Hatterene just Dazzling Gleams down Crocalor, but that does push Farigiraf into the Citrus Berry, and now we bring in Mousehold here just to get the beat up into Indeedee, and then Terra Blast the Hatterene for a bit of damage, but Hatterene lives pretty comfortably from that Terra Blast and gets off a pretty decent Expanding Force back too. And now they reveal Littlegate in the back, and they immediately swap into Torkoal as Mousehold goes for the Protect and catches a close combat, and we Terra Blasted the Torkoal just for a bit of health because it would have taken out Hatterene previously. Torkoal goes Terra Fire, and Mousehold lands the double Protect here, which I'm not exactly sure if that matters because it would have been kind of nice to bring in Annihilate on this next turn here, but Mousehold redirects again and catches a close combat. from the Lilligant, as Fergraf is able to Terra Blast into the Torkoal. Annihilate comes in here, and Hatterene returns to the field, and they after you with Hatterene, and the Dazzling Gleam is going to take Fergraf, and it's going to do some damage to Annihilate, but Annihilate gets Drain Punch into Lilligant, bringing it down pretty low, not low enough to proc the Focus Sash though, and Lilligant misses the Sleep Powder, which is how Annihilate is able to pull this game out by Drain Punching a little bit more health left, and they do crit Annihilate here, but Hatterene dies to its Life Orb. So definitely a very cumbersome game for this Mouse Ape team, where we had to get a lot of our turns correct in order to get out of there, but I just wanted to kind of showcase that it's possible to like bring in a Pokemon with Imprison Trick Room to get you out of Trick Room, and then imprison the Trick Room once you're out of Trick Room. Here we have a Sand team with Excadrill as their fastest piece, but they could also have a very threatening Corviknight endgame in the back, and their Annihilate endgame is also a possibility here. But we start with Wugtrio and Lolkix here, as they start Annihilate and Grimmsnarl, and we just decide to chip the Annihilate for a bit damage here before the Reflect goes up, as Annihilate U-turns into us, which more or less reveals that it is a Choice Scarf Mon, as Wugtrio goes for Triple Dive into Grimmsnarl, and Grimmsnarl takes it pretty well. They decide to swap Excadrill for Annihilate and then bring in Tyranitar for the Sand, as they Iron Head into our switch that we use to try and save Lolkix, and Wugtrio is able to go through Excadrill there, as I know that Excadrill was in fact Focus Sash, so we got around at least one Focus Sash Mon today. But Annihilate side coaching into Tyranitar, and our Triple Dive we're trying to use here in order to get a crit against the opponent, since each hit of the Triple Dive gives us 3 times as many chances as it would normally, but Tyranitar just going Terra Flying and taking out Annihilate kind of disables us from going for Rage Fist there, which might have been a better idea, is just clicking Rage Fist into Tyranitar, expecting a Terra. Low Kick and Spirit Break are caught by Mousehold on the switch in here. It's important for us to save Mousehold, as Wugtrio is pretty frail, but the Friend Guard is making it so they can probably take at least one hit. Beat Up does not catch any crits here. Triple Dive also does not catch any crits on Tyranitar. And Low Kick actually doesn't do too much damage to Mousehold, because Mousehold is pretty light. The Spirit Break from Grimmsnarl that was going to push Mousehold into being taken out by the Sand next turn, but we taunt Grimmsnarl here and we Triple Dive with Wugtrio, and Wugtrio is able to do just enough damage to take out Grimmsnarl there. So in that game, we kind of messed up our switch with the Excadrill, as I was maybe expecting the Excadrill to go for the Rock Slide, since we had a Bug type on the field and not a Ground type move, but because we put our Annihilate in a pretty precarious situation where it would have like really helped to have it against Corviknight endgame and the opposing Annihilate, if it was not a Choice Scarf Annihilate, then we easily could have thrown the game there. And lastly, we have a battle against a pretty offensive team here with the Kilowattrel and Garchomp exerting a lot of pressure with either like Discharge Earthquake combination, or Kilowattrel can just Tailwind for the Gildango, or the Indeedee Gardevoir's Expanding Force. So we start out the game with Wugtrio and Fergraf, as the opponent starts the game with Kilowattrel and Tauros, and Tauros immediately gets that Intimidate into us, and Tauros protects on this turn, and Kilowattrel goes for the Discharge, and Wugtrio just does not take it, even though I kind of expected Wugtrio to maybe at least hold on there, but at least Fergraf gets up the Trick Room, and Annihilate gets off the Terra Water, and we side Terra Blast into Annihilate in order to start building our Rage Fist stacks for the endgame. Since we were Drain Punching, we'd get some health back there, and we've only lost 1% health to that Terra Blast. Which Tauros hits Fergraf, but Fergraf Citrus Berry, and the opponent just double protects here in order to stall a turn of Trick Room. But while that's going on, we're still side Terra Blasting into Annihilate here, and the opponent switches Gildango as the Ghost type to avoid taking damage on the Drain Punch, but we just doubled into the Kilowattrel on this turn since I Terra'd into a Water type, and Garchomp goes for the Protect, and we try Terra Blasting into that, and we Rage Fist into Gildango in order to take that out. But now that we're inside a Trick Room, the extra Rage Fist stacks that I was giving Annihilate is kind of working against us. Tauros is Intimidate, so we get the Defiant boost, but Tauros is actually Mirror Herb, so it gets a ×2 attack and is faster than our Annihilate. Tauros just protects though, as Garchomp goes for the Earthquake in order to take Fergraf and do big damage to Annihilate. Annihilate Drain punches some health back, but it doesn't get too much health back because of rough skin, pushing us kind of low. Tauros just goes for that close combat, and that's going to take out Annihilate, as Crocalor goes for the Flamethrower just to guarantee that Garchomp goes down this turn, and we are unaware on Crocalor, so we're avoiding the attack boost, but we're also not benefiting from the fact that it's lowering its defense. And Crocalor tried to slack off, stall out the close combats on Tauros, because Tauros probably doesn't have anything to hit Crocalor outside of the close combats. It's just that Tauros picked up the crit there and was able to overpower Crocalor, losing us the game. But yeah, that was the Gen 9 team, and as I said before, this Gen 9 team is not super optimized for Gen 9. If anything, it's more of a Mouse Ape team with like a various random Mouse Ape supports. And I would go as far to say that during Reg H, Mouse Ape was popular at the start, but it really fell off once we had a lot of high damage spread attackers in like Typhlosion and Charizard, and Basculegion wasn't spread, but it was still just a really high attacker, and then Pelipper was always Focus Sash so that it could get off an attack. But in a meta defined by big damage spread attackers, it's really hard for Mouse Ape to succeed, since usually Mousehole just wants to like redirect to big single damage target attacks and then just allow Annihilate to get set up. But that is going to be it for today, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video and even consider subscribing, because both of those things would help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.